4 in Seattle. Now, KOMO News 4.
It's a convenience you might not think twice about, but KOMO News has learned it could cost you your car.
After-hours drop slots. Are you leaving the keys for the dealer or handing over your keys to crime? Good evening, everyone. There is a warning tonight for car owners and auto dealers. Thieves have found a new way to steal your car.
KOMO News has learned it's part of a growing trend. KOMO's Farland Chang is uncovering this part of the story. He's at the Pacific Nissan Auto Dealership in Seattle. That's where some of the cars were reported stolen. Farland, what's happening?
Well, Dan and Kathy, it seems to be a very simple but a very clever ploy. Now, a lot of car owners think it's very convenient to be able to leave your car at the dealership the night before it's about to be serviced. So they park their car and then they drop their key off into the old-fashioned mail slot system. But we have learned that once you drop it off, it may be gone for good. Now, the dealers are telling me they suspect the thieves are using some kind of a tool, an arm with some kind of fingers on it that goes into the mail drop, grabs the keys, and then takes off with your car.
Kurt Kassan and his wife Sandra are now renting a car because their own car was stolen last night.
These burglars have found a way to beat this system.
After dropping his keys, Kassan called the dealer the next day, but the dealer found no keys, no car. The same thing happened to at least 9 other car owners at 3 other dealerships in Seattle, all within the past 2 months.
Right here, and then if you can look, you could see the envelopes on the ground.
This worker at University Subaru shows how 7 keys were stolen from this old-fashioned mail slot. So the dealer installed a new key drop system.
It's curved, and it goes down and drops into a locking safe.
I really felt it was important to call you folks to let the community know that these types of things are coming about and that we need to be as smart as the bad guy.
To deal with the bad guys, the car dealership here has decided to basically stop its drop box service. You can see they've taped it up and they put up a sign, valued customer, due to the increase of crime in the downtown area, we've temporarily stopped our drop system. So they're basically saying to the customers, please bring in your keys in person until a more secure system is set up. Dan and Kathy?
Sure makes a lot of sense. Are police saying how big a problem this is, Farland?
Well, Kathy, we called the police, but they were unable to give us any total numbers tonight. But the dealers we talked to say that they think this crime is on the rise. And in fact, the Washington State Auto Dealers Association is sending out a notice to all of its members.
All right, Farland, thanks very much.
More aftershock.
KOMO's Farland Chang discovered a trend toward what might be labeled cyber adultery. Farland joins us this evening, and you found there's more of this than some people might think.
That's right, Kathy and Dan. I went online and I was amazed to find so many people, dozens of married people who told me anonymously that they are or were cheating on their spouses online. Now, if you've never been online, it's just a matter of the computer and the telephone hooking up into a chat room. The chat rooms can cover any topic. The chat room here is dealing with married females. You can type in a message like, is anyone interested in an affair? You press enter, and that message is sent out all across the country to all the people in that room at the same time.
It must be totally anonymous.
First, I say I am a man wanting an affair. I receive one reply, a woman from New Jersey who was married. She's full of questions. She tells me that she came close to meeting a man before, but she backed out, fearing she would get caught. I then move into other chat rooms with topics such as married and lonely, married and wicked, or married and cheating. This time I say I am a woman wanting an affair.
If I'm a married woman...
You've got mail.
Instantly, I receive a flurry of replies from men. One member says, hi, from California, 6 feet, 160 pounds, trim, curly blonde, would love to call you. Another says, hi, how are you? I enjoy erotic fun and sensual stimulation of a woman's entire body. Of course, a lot of this may just be talk. Then again, a third man suggests that we should rendezvous for a real-life meeting. I hear from dozens of married people, mostly in their 30s and 40s, who tell me that their online affairs led to real-life affairs. Many tell me they would not have started if it were not so easy and so anonymous. 45-year-old Nancy Countryman was courted by a married man in the Midwest. He sent her daily love letters.
My beautiful darling, I love you because you are you, and I need you by my side.
He promised to divorce and marry Nancy, so he flew out to meet her and they had sex. But the man returned to his wife, leaving Nancy brokenhearted. Nancy agreed to talk so she could warn other vulnerable singles.
You know, sitting there all by yourself, alone. Some guy tells you all this stuff. You fall for it.
Is she getting...
This 50-year-old divorced woman also had an affair with a married man. She asked that we call her Emily. She says the affair was an accident. It happened after many months of listening to the man's marital problems. That's a common theme among married people online.
They say, I feel like I'm living with a roommate. They don't have that intimacy and communication that they used to have. This one is from a married man.
Emily agreed to talk because she did not want us to show just the negative side of married people online. She says she has formed about 20 close friendships with married men, based not on sex, but on music and art.
Playing with fire.
But some church leaders are still concerned.
Jesus said, he who even looks at a woman lustfully in his heart has committed adultery with her. And that goes to show that the battle is won or lost in the heart and the mind, not necessarily just the physical act of that.
So, Farland, how big of a problem is this, really?
Well, Kathy, I spoke to the experts at the Marital and Sexuality Center in San Jose, California. They tell me that this phenomenon is so new that they have not completed any full studies on the impact of these relationships, but they have seen case after case, thousands of them, in which these types of high-tech cyber affairs have caused trouble to rocky marriages. Tomorrow you'll hear from a woman who lost her spouse to a cyber romance.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow, Farland. Thanks.
Steve Poole's up next. We have a story tonight about what some consider the dark side of the internet.
Yeah, for some married people, there's growing concern that so-called online chat rooms can actually threaten marriages. KOMO's Farland Chang discovered a trend toward what might be labeled cyber adultery. Farland joins us this evening, and you found there's more of this than some people might think.
That's right, Kathy and Dan. I went online and I was amazed to find so many people, dozens of married people who told me anonymously that they are or were cheating on their spouses online. Now, if you've never been online, it's just a matter of the computer and the telephone hooking up into a chat room. The chat rooms can cover any topic. The chat room here is dealing with married females. You can type in a message like, is anyone interested in an affair?
Romance is taking a new turn in the 90s.
People meet and fall in love connecting via computer chat lines. Many computer networks are nationwide now. KOMO's Farland Chang introduces us to one man who created a local network and found his own online love.
Kai Campbell gets turned off by dating services, classified ads, and the whole bar scene.
You know, it's actually pretty hard for me to meet women just because the whole ritual aspect of, you know, what society expects.
This computer analyst says he is shy, but he likes to write. That's why he started his own bulletin board service right from his own home.
This allows you to get to know a person under the umbrella of anonymity. You can check people out without having to commit anything.
Campbell named his bulletin board after his favorite song by Pink Floyd, Great Gig in the Sky. His phone number is among the hundreds listed in the Puget Sound computer user. Anyone can call. Some callers invite others to face-to-face parties.
She says, wow, anyone interested in the possibilities of a June gig birthday barbecue party or something? And somebody else here, Just George, says, sure sounds good. Let's pick a date now so no one can back out.
Some people hit it off. Others do not. Campbell says you have to watch out for people who say they are what they are not. He's been let down before, but Campbell's love life picked up after Janet Novinger called to check out his board.
I laughed a lot with him, and I would read what he was writing on the screen and just laugh out loud, and that was unusual. And at the same time, we were talking about heart subjects, really deep, getting to know each other, and it was a perfect balance.
Being anonymous online opens doors for people. But when doors open, anyone can enter, including people who play games and deceive. Fortunately, being anonymous online also means you can hang up whenever you want.
Farland Chang, KOMO News 4.
And Farland does have some more examples of online love, including a pretty incredible story of love that reached all across the country. He lives here in Washington, but she lives thousands of miles away in Florida.
Well, guess what? They met on their computers, and now their story has a fairy tale type ending.
I knelt down and pulled out the ring, and I said, "Will you marry me?" And she said yes. That was the happiest day of my life.
You'll find out how that couple courted via computer and found online love. That's tonight on KOMO News 4.
Kawika Ohumukini and Roxanne Young never dreamed this could be. Two strangers on opposite coasts finding their mates through their own computers.
I've never been this happy in my entire life.
Me neither. I'm the happiest I've ever been. This is it.
Their story begins 5 months ago. Kawika, the 29-year-old musician and computer consultant from Kirkland. Roxanne, the 30-year-old poet who teaches gifted 8th grade students. She lives in Ormond Beach, Florida. Both she and Kawika know what kind of partner they want, but they've never found the right match.
Welcome.
One day, Roxanne buys a computer. She joins America Online.
You've got mail.
Just click a button and you enter a virtual room where you can chat with people of most ages in any part of the country. Roxanne enters one room to ask a technical question. Kawika answers. For the next several hours, he gladly helps Roxanne solve her problem. In the process, they open up.
The more we talked, the more right it felt.
In the weeks ahead, they connect daily. There's something about writing anonymously. There's no feeling of rejection, no feeling of inhibition.
I really got to know who she was inside.
Soon, words are not enough. They use the phone to enjoy the other's voice. Then they use the computer to see the other's face.
Oh, she's beautiful. So this picture, I knew I had to see her.
Roxanne has to see him too, and she does, by arranging with Kawika's parents to surprise him.
I saw her when I turned on the light to my room. It was just a complete shock. It was a total disbelief. I didn't believe, for 30 seconds there, I wasn't sure it was really happening.
It was immediate. We both were, this is it.
It was immediate.
Yeah, it was.
Within a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
1 month later, Kawika invites Roxanne to Seattle for Christmas.
I knelt down and pulled out the ring, and I said, "Will you marry me?" And she said yes. That was the happiest day of my life. Follow your heart, follow your dreams.
3 months after they first connect, we find the couple making music together. Roxanne, the poet, writing the words. Kawika, the musician, playing the music.
I will always be there for you. Two lucky people.
You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Captain Scott O'Grady belongs to a famous fighter squadron with many veterans here in Western Washington. Tonight, KOMO's Farland Chang met one of those proud vets.
On the two walls.
Meet retired Air Force pilot Tom Slee, a man who proudly displays the planes flown by his old 80th Fighter Squadron.
I have flown that airplane, that particular airplane, many times.
His squadron is the same one for whom Captain Scott O'Grady serves.
Over the mountain. A lesser person would probably have given up 6 days without food or very little food.
Their squadron's motto is based on a line from a Latin poem.
Adentes fortuna juvat, which means fortune favors the bold.
From that phrase, the squadron's nickname became Juvats, and that's the name that O'Grady gave to his rescuers over the radio. Watch as he relived that moment.
Copy that. What was your squadron in Korea?
Juvat.
Copy that. You're alive. Good to hear your voice.
Tom Slee says hearing that scene made him feel proud. It also made him feel young again.
I wish I was there. I wish I was out there flying these wings.
Tom Slee hopes to personally greet his fellow pilot when he returns to Washington State. just to say good job and welcome home.
Once a fighter pilot, always a fighter pilot. Yes, sir. Once a Juvat, always a Juvat.
In Tacoma, Farland Chang, KOMO News 4.
All three of the boys are at Harborview Medical Center, as is KOMO's Farland Chang. Farland, what happened out there?
Dan and Margot, the three boys are between the ages of 8 and 12. Three boys lighting a can of spray paint and using it as a torch. But that game tonight has left two of the boys in critical condition, one of them unsatisfactory. They suffered burns to their faces, to their chests, and to their arms. It all happened after their game of fire exploded like a bomb.
This peaceful residential neighborhood just outside Federal Way suddenly erupts tonight into a gruesome emergency scene. 3 children are burned after an explosion next to Green Gables Elementary School.
The boys, they were just so badly burnt. I've never seen anything like it, so...
They were screaming?
Yeah, they were screaming, help me, help me. So we knew then when we heard that they were obviously hurt.
This boy sees the awful aftermath of 3 young boys playing with a can of aerosol spray and a cigarette lighter. That's a combination a lot like a flamethrower.
What they don't realize is that aerosol cans, when they're heated up or if the fire comes back into the can explode while they're holding it. And they become, in effect, bombs.
I feel really sad because I knew them. I was crying.
2 helicopters rushed the children to Harborview Medical Center's burn unit. The boys suffered burns on up to 20% of their bodies.
I just hope that the kids in the neighborhood, unfortunately, have learned a lesson from this. Do not play with matches, candles, aerosol cans, because this is what the result can be.
Again, 2 of the boys in critical condition, 1 unsatisfactory. We also know that 2 of the boys are brothers. Their families are with them now inside praying for the best. Dan and Margot.
Farland, are these kind of games pretty common?
Margot, firefighters say these games are all too common. I recall even when I was a kid, I saw a lot of other kids playing the same kinds of games. We all know now how clearly and how terribly these games can end.
Yeah, terribly dangerous. Thanks, Farland. Captain Scott O'Grady is safe tonight after a daring rescue in Bosnia. KOMO's Farland Chang spoke to O'Grady's mother tonight, and Farland, there must be a great celebration in the works.
Margot and Dan, the place for the party is still unknown, but the whole family wants to be invited. Now, Scott O'Grady has 6 uncles, 2 aunts, and 21 cousins all over the country. So many that I even know one from when I lived on the East Coast. Now, for the family, tonight's jubilation comes after 6 days of fearing the very worst.
Scott O'Grady's sister, father, and brother spoke on ABC's Nightline tonight about the moment when they first heard O'Grady had been shot down. Bill O'Grady needed space, so he asked the Army ministers to leave the room.
So they left, and I started screaming and crying, and you get the emotions out, and it just, you just come unglued.
But during that time, his son was beating the odds. 6 days alone behind enemy lines, living mostly off water, bugs, and grass. O'Grady's mother credits not only Scott's military training, but also his grandfather's influence.
There's an expression in Italian called calabrese, which means stubborn or thick-headed. But I think he's a very determined individual, and he knows what he wants, and he will work hard to achieve that, and he has.
O'Grady's mother and stepfather also thanked all those who prayed for their son. She hopes this story will inspire young people to have faith and believe in themselves. She now looks forward to hearing from her son again, who always loves to tell of his stories overseas.
He always ends with, the best we have and the best place there is right here in the good old US of A.
Mrs. Scartapane says she has not eaten much in the past 6 days. Tonight, like her son, she can finally enjoy a meal. Dan and Margot.
Robin Stratton came here with her husband to ask police about her aunt, 54-year-old Barbara Walsh. Walsh, seen here holding one of her many nieces, was murdered in her home, and her home was set on fire.
Lost our mom about 10 years ago, so she was kind of like our second mom. So it's really hard, really hard. It's like losing 2 mothers.
Police say whoever killed Walsh and set her apartment on fire is also likely to blame for the murder and arson just across the street. That one happened last month. 43-year-old Renee Powell was stabbed to death before her home was also burned. Investigators say both crimes happened on the same street, where residents often move in and out. Both women lived alone in ground-floor apartments. Both worked in the healthcare field. Powell, a registered nurse, and Walsh, a medical secretary. And both arsons were set at about the same time, late at night during the weekend. Walsh worked until midnight. She did not know the other victim, nor did she have any friends nearby.
She was very close to this family, so it's going to be a big loss.
Tonight, police have no suspects, no motives.
It's nerve-wracking, actually. I mean, it certainly concerns our investigators, to say the least.
But police do have advice. Lock your doors, know your neighbors, and keep your eyes open.
I don't know. There's a lot of crazy people out there, and I hope they catch the guy that did this.
Among the remains from the fire here at Barbara Marshall's home is this doll, a burnt-out shell of a doll in the form of a rabbit. Many of Barbara Marshall's neighbors are concerned that what happened to her might happen to them. One neighbor told me that she has no security system, but she now has a gun, and she plans to buy a very loud barking dog. Another resident, a landlord, told me that she's having a very hard time renting out any of her apartments to anybody at any price. These concerns are why the King County Police and also the Fire Marshal will hold a community meeting tomorrow night. Dan and Kathy? Now, friends and neighbors speak very warmly of the Andersons. They had lived here for about 3 years off and on. They also spent time in Texas, where they managed a mobile home park. Now, police plan to interview Anderson's extended family and also his business partners. They're also asking anybody with tips to please call Puyallup Police. Dan and Margo?
By now, you may have heard about the woman who was talking on the radio from a car phone when she was hit by a hit-and-run driver. Some of our viewers emailed us to say maybe this wouldn't have happened if the woman wasn't on the phone. So tonight we asked KOMO's Farland Chang to find out whether car phones do indeed cause car crashes.
They are commuters who need to be connected. An estimated 1 of 8 motorists owns a car phone. But do they pose a danger to the rest of us? Mike Sullivan says definitely.
And the car came up behind me and just kept rolling, and I could see him in the rearview mirror and talking on the car phone, and then boom, hit me.
Even some car phone owners are worried.
I think that people are distracted when they're on the phone. They've got it crooked in their neck.
Indeed, a study by the Rochester Institute of Technology confirms the fears. It found that car phone owners run a 34% higher risk of having an accident than non-owners. Both Washington State Patrol and Safeco Insurance agree that car phone use can cause accidents, but Safeco is not charging higher insurance premiums on car phone owners.
Most people aren't always willing to admit, yes, I was talking on the phone and I got in an accident. It's not something we can really prove or disprove.
But the car phone industry does recommend you pull off the road to make a call or use a hands-free speakerphone.
Just look straight ahead. You know, you can be using the turn signals, checking mirrors.
But if you're using one of these standard car phones, there are some basic safety tips that you ought to follow. First of all, when you're dialing, you want to make sure you can see the traffic conditions ahead of you. Better yet, you should minimize the dialing by using the memory recall feature. And naturally, you should avoid having long, intense conversations.
The bottom line, keep your mind on the road. In Bellevue, Farland Chang, KOMO News 4.
Despite some of the criticism, even car phone critics admit the phones are priceless, even lifesavers in emergencies.
Farland, any word yet on why that small plane went down?
Dan and Kathy, we do know that that small plane that crashed behind me had 2 engines. One of them went down. Why remains a mystery. Federal air traffic and safety investigators are going to remove that plane and analyze that engine to figure out what the problem was. There was also some confusion between the pilot and the control tower. Apparently, the pilot was trying to land on Boeing Field. Somehow he got into SeaTac airspace. Whatever the cause, the effect was deadly.
Yeah, I was just getting off the bus and I was looking up and I said, boy, that guy's a little bit off. I've noticed the left propeller wasn't moving. So I go, oh geez. I thought he was gonna land over here on this street right here, but he went over here into the public area and I said, oh no. And he just went that way all of a sudden and just head first right into the dirt, and I went that way. There was flames everywhere.
Tom Harrell tried to pull out one of the men still trapped in the burning twin-engine plane, a Beech Twin Bonanza. The man was pulled out only after firefighters arrived 3 minutes after the crash. That victim was airlifted to Harborview with severe head and body injuries. The second victim was thrown from the plane. He was pronounced dead on the scene. One of the victims had a driver's license from Idaho. It's unclear where they were coming from, but they were headed to Boeing Field.
All we know is that he was coming in from the north. His intention was to go into Boeing Field. There was some confusion on location, and I don't know if it's on the side of air traffic or on the side of the pilot.
What caused that confusion and how the plane ended up in SeaTac airspace is a big unknown right now. The safety investigators say that they're going to have to go through the radar data and the air traffic tapes. They figure it could be 2 to 3 weeks before they find out what led to the death of that one passenger and the injury of the other. Dan and Kathy?
Farland, those two people on board, do we know anything more at all about them?
Well, the authorities are not releasing the names or the ages. We know that there were 2 men. One of them had that driver's license from Idaho. The authorities are trying to reach his next of kin, and the medical examiner is on the scene trying to help identify that second victim.
Farland Chang, thank you.
Well, some people who saw that plane.
2 victims of violent crime are reaching out to help each other tonight.
He lost his ability to walk. She lost her son. KOMO's Farland Chang was there as they met.
Rob White is nervous. He and his wife are about to meet another victim of a violent crime, Sophia Gadd. Her son was murdered by an armed carjacker.
He didn't kill my son. He killed me.
Rob saw Sophia on KOMO News 4. He was so moved, he asked if we could help him meet her.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. This is Sophia.
Rob knows about violent crime. He was shot in the back last spring while buying groceries.
But I wish everyone can listen to us and maybe they stop violence in all the world. Everyone has motion. Me too. He killed my feeling, my emotion. Really, I lose my son just like this.
Sophia's son was killed last week by a man who offered to jumpstart his car. When Rob saw the news, he says he felt like he had been killed.
You know, there's so many innocent people,
yes,
you know, getting killed for nothing. You know, or like me, being permanently in a wheelchair for nothing.
Rob and Sophia agree there should be more gun control, tougher laws against criminals, and more rights for the victims.
I'm old. I'm divorced. He supports me. Who will pay my rent?
Rob and Joyce tell Sophia they have found groups to assist victims of crime, and they intend to let Sophia know as well.
Anything I can do to help, I will, I promise.
Thank you.
Anything.
God bless you.
Bless you too.
Rob is nervous no more.
There is a $25,000 reward for any information leading to the conviction of Gadd's killer.
Good evening. Welcome to KOMO News 4 at 11 o'clock. And we have the story tonight of a plane that crashed on a crowded street during rush hour.
One man was hit in a car. He's okay, but another driver is in serious condition at this hour after a small experimental plane crashed into their 2 cars right in the middle of rush hour tonight. KOMO's Farland Chang joins us from Harborview Medical Center, where the woman was airlifted. How is she doing tonight?
Kathy and Dan, she is in serious condition. 21-year-old Stacy Hendrickson from Puyallup suffered head injuries and cuts all over her body. It all happened as she was in rush hour traffic not far from her home when a plane lost control and crashed into her. This is the experimental plane that failed. The pilot built it out of a special plane kit. Police say the 62-year-old pilot, Robert Goodman, took off from the Pierce County Airport, much like this plane had just taken off. But at 300 feet, he lost power. He tried to restart, but he was unable to. So he tried to land on this empty field. But for some reason, he could not. That's when he tried to land over there on that busy stretch of Highway 161. The plane came straight toward this pickup truck, which 39-year-old Steve Benny was driving.
Tore the windshield out and peeled the cab back, so thank God it was on the right side, the passenger side of the truck. So otherwise, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now. So.
Benny was able to walk away with cuts on his face. So was the pilot, but not the driver of this compact car. The plane did not stop until it smashed head-on into the driver's side.
trapping the young woman driver in her seat.
She ended up in the ditch over there, and I didn't even know she'd been hit until about 10 minutes later. I was standing over there trying to get the glass out of my face, and somebody asked me about the white car, and I said, I don't know anything about a white car, and I looked back.
And then he looked back and he saw the driver was trapped inside. Eventually, she was pulled out and airlifted here to Harborview. As for the pilot, he was treated for minor injuries. He's declining comment tonight. Danny, Kathy?
Farland, I know it's early, but is there any word at all on what might have caused the plane to go down?
Not yet, Dan. The FAA sent an inspector to take a preliminary check on the plane and also to interview some witnesses, but it'll take a while, at least a few days, before the inspector says he can come up with a cause as to what went wrong.
Pretty scary situation. Farland, thanks.
3 men are...
And Mariners fans aren't giving up on their team, but they are taking the news pretty hard. KOMO's Farland Chang joins us now from outside the Kingdom, where fans are clearing out from tonight's game. Hello, Farland.
Hi, Eric. A bittersweet night for the fans. On the one hand, they're going home happy knowing that their team came from behind to beat the Yankees. On the other hand, they're also deeply disappointed that they have lost the best power pitcher in baseball and their own hometown sports hero.
This little girl is just 8 years old, and her fastball is only 26 miles an hour compared to Randy Johnson's 98. But she is proud of one similarity.
How do you feel about having the same name as Randy Johnson?
Cool.
Derek Solomon became a Mariner fan after he and his dad left New York City, came to Seattle, and saw the light.
To what extent did Randy Johnson help convert you from a Yankee to a Mariner fan?
Well, when he's healthy, he's the best pitcher in the American